now? Okay, I think we're live. Wait, no, I'm supposed to do the intro first. Let's do... Okay. All right. That's the order things going. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to Roll with Advantage. My name is not Joe, and this is not Salamander Coast. So, if you were here last week, you already know this, but Salamander Coast, Isles of Avarion, and Explorers of Ephera, the three main campaigns that run here on Roll with Advantage, are all on a temporary break for the next little while, as Joe, our lovely DM and founder of Roll with Advantage, is taking a bit of a break from fun and games to handle some life stuff. So he'll be back before too long, and the campaigns will resume. But in the meantime, it is up to me, Mark, also known as the other guy, to run a mini campaign. So this is called Rising Ash. It is a 6-session mini-campaign that takes place in the theocratic empire of Machavia. We have 3 players with us here, all of whom are part of the Salamander Coast normally, playing level 12 characters that are sent on a very dangerous mission in the middle of a foreign patch of woods that the Empire technically owns, but doesn't have too much influence over. And they are looking for somebody who was sent by the Empire a few months ago who may have gone rogue. They're supposed to investigate his activities and his plans. They're also supposed to investigate possible fiend activity in the area, and they are supposed to, air quotes, purify the region, no matter what that takes. So it is a investigation and morality mini-campaign in which they are sorting out how to best handle this complicated situation that they find themselves in and try their best to reach an amicable solution. Well, I don't know, amicable is not the right word. It's not going to be that. But a solution, shedding as little innocent blood as possible. So, normally on Roll with Advantage, the players are the ones that do summaries, but I'm not a little bitch boy like Joe, so I'm just gonna... throwing heat! But I'm just gonna go ahead and read the Session 1 summary that I myself wrote for Rising Ash, and then we will go ahead and dive into Session 2. So, last we left off here on Roll with Advantage with Rising Ash. After a failed war with Tarkir and the conflict stirred by a necromantic cultist known as the Shepherd, the theocratic empire of Machavia finds itself in a period of instability. Many are questioning their faith and their politics, and some regions are beginning to resist the empire's rule. Our story begins with 3 elite members of the Machavian military receiving a classified mission. And we, of course, here have Tivik'ka, the warlock, Eris, the warlord, and Calloway, the rogue fighter mix. So they received this mission. Some months ago, they are told, High Exarch Ambrose Zenaris, one of the most important figures in the nation. The High Exarchs are some of the mightiest, most powerful, and most influential clerics in the land that work directly with the Emperor. High Exarch Ambrose Zenaris was sent to the Forest of Ash, a dangerous region in the south by the peninsulas, to quell the rising rebellion and stomp out any insurrection and any other followers of the necromancer, the Shepherd, that might still be around. He has not reported back in weeks, and worse yet, it is believed he has been scheming with a fiend based on the divinations of the other High Exarchs. The party must journey discreetly, determine the situation, and purify the region. Their first stop was supposed to be the riverside village of Barda, where they would be able to get their bearings and directions, ask information about what's been going on. But upon arrival, they found a already burned and massacred town. There was one young recruit that had survived the attack, a new Pure, as they're called, a soldier that is still earning their stripes and not officially risen, as it is called when you earn your first rank. They met this young new Pure named Iuna, and she was able to tell them that followers of Ambrose had done this, and they seemed to think that they were righteous and justified in doing it. She said that something about them had changed, something about their mindset, their sanity, disposition. She didn't quite know what, but it caused them to raid what she saw as an innocent village. There was cult-like writing and symbols around the village. In particular, there was one building that had ash and blood scrawled on the back. There was iconography on it that looked like a burning torch, and there was a simple expression in writing, Machavia Manifest. They also found a notebook that had been left by one of the invaders who had died in the invasion, a notebook of him journeying with Ambrose and sort of slowly losing his grasp and his sanity, and slowly starting to believe some of the things that Ambrose apparently had been telling everyone else. The party was ready to leave the village, but suddenly they were beckoned by a mysterious entity, and this entity summoned bone devils to the village. Now, they were able to pretty much completely curtail any possible encounter with the bone devils by very smartly getting away, but then the entity surrounded them in darkness and invited them into a dimly green-lit cavern and revealed himself to be Baal, a duke and a general of the third layer of hell, the layer of greed. This is the fiend activity that was supposedly in the area, and he said he was here to claim Ambrose's soul. Not out of malicious intent, but because he admired Ambrose, and he wanted to take him back into hell as a right hand. He thought that he could make a very good supporter for his escapades in the third layer of hell. And his offer to the party was very simple. Ambrose is doing terrible things to your homeland, and I want him. So go kill Ambrose and bring me his soul. Or I'll do whatever I need to get it myself, and thousands might die in the crossfire. And with that, he left, but he promised that at any point he could show himself through that green-lit cavern once again, and the party could negotiate with him, if they wanted to entertain that at all. They slept uneasily that night, and as they were taking watches, Calloway was able to piece together some clues that led to a nearby village. So right now, the whole party is headed there. It appears to be a somewhat foreign place to what they're used to in the northern parts of the Empire. These clues led to a place called Theoaldo, which is Elvish for Hidden Trail. They don't know quite what they will find there, other than it seems like a mostly peaceful place. And a mysterious native woman named Eileen, who was there at the Hidden Trail, asked Calloway before he brought the others, "You're not with the Empire, are you?" Calloway gave a vague answer. Eileen gave a vague response to his vague answer, and now they are all here hoping to finally get some rest, some information, find other living people they can talk to, and maybe get answers on all of the pieces of the puzzle they have encountered so far. Okay, so all of that being said, we can now go ahead and get into Session 2 of Rising Ash. But first off, music has not been playing this whole time, so I should probably do that. All right, that sounds better. Nice. I just monologued into the void for a while there.
There was music.
There was music?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
There's piano in there.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Well, I'm glad, but it's
very eloquent too.
I'm really glad that happened, but the concerning thing is that's not in my my player.
Well, it was beautiful,
Okay.
y'all.
You
Well,
used it last session. It's music you used last session.
Huh. Okay, was it called Adventuring Alone?
I didn't look at it. I listened to it.
Well, I look at the things I listen to. Man, okay. I guess... Hold on. Because I need to know this. I need to... Was it this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that was playing, I guess. I never told it to, but, Foundry's got my back. Yeah, it's a real nice track. I might just let it keep going right now anyway, and then pull up Haven a little bit from now. Because it's real nice. It's a very nice track. Oh, it literally disappeared again on my screen. Is it still playing?
No, now it's not.
Okay, alright. This... Because that was about to make no sense.
I know.
Alright. I'm just gonna...
I guess it doesn't show up on stream if it's not playing for Mark, according to Nick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's... wow. Oh, Foundry. You wonderful thing. Okay. Well... Just gonna let my screen load back in real quick. See what we got going on here. There it is. Yeah. The one that goes bomb bomb beedoo bomb. Yeah. Okay. No, you're thinking of the one that goes bebop boop boop. Okay. SpongeBob jokes aside. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. So, all of you now are headed to Theo Aldo, a place that Calloway followed some clues to. The clues that you saw was there was an elven man seemed to be wandering out alone at night, going to get himself some water by the nearby stream. He tasted something foul in it and saw the village of Barda in the distance. And he seemed to urgently head back to the village of Theoaldo to inform somebody of what had happened. Now, all three of you are going there in the daytime. No sign of conflict, no sign of trouble. And all you know is that Calloway met Eileen, and Eileen seemed friendly enough, albeit a bit of a different sight in this area for sure. Not the demeanor and decorum that most of you are used to being from the northern regions of Machavia. So now, let's go ahead and get you back to that hidden trail. And as all of you are finally approaching and emerge where Calloway first did, Eileen is, again, waiting there for you. You don't know if she's been there the whole 45 minutes or so it took to get back, but she seems to be tending to the small pathway that you find yourselves on, taking care to tuck some soil around a few plants along the edge, and to get a little bit of water on some of the leaves on the trail. And finally, as you all approach, she looks back up to the three of you. For Tivik'ka and Eris, this is your first time seeing this woman. White hair, white outfit made of natural, fine materials. This facial tattoo and butterflies. There always seems to be several of them just following her around, no matter where she is standing or what she is doing. And with her very gentle voice and demeanor, she stands back up, looks primarily to Calloway, and says, "Well, these must be the friends you talked about, then."
They are indeed.
Well, if you would like hospitality to be within Theoaldo for a moment, I do need to ask once again. I mostly ask for the sake of the Baron, but whether or not You are from the Empire. Are you here to represent them, or are you here as a neutral party?
Is this question directed just to Calloway?
She is primarily looking at you, but anyone could answer.
Sorry, I just assumed because I have two what I assume are charismatic people around me, but that's a bad assumption to make. Sorry, I'm being a bad player.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to think of a response.
We do not... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's all right. To be fair, you're asking a lot about us, and we don't know much about you. What is this place? Who's to say we want to stay?
Well, I only ask because you look a little worse for wear. Smell of death. This place, when all is well, is a neutral ground. A vein of life that has been running throughout this forest for many hundreds of years. Conflict has been stirring lately, and though I am not concerned, the Baron is. I only ask so that I may know what to tell him when I welcome you in. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're not here for blood, you are but one more weary traveler that I can call a friend.
I don't represent...
I think we would all hope that there's no bloodshed here. We're certainly not here for that. And we don't find ourselves here for the purpose of the Empire.
Yeah. I noticed the complication amongst the three of you, but I will take that answer for now. Just know when we approach, you will see a human, well armored. You'll notice him. He looks quite a bit different from the rest of us. That is Baron Cyril of Gauls. He is here representing the interests of the Empire. At least, that's what he says on paper. I've gotten along with him very well for over a decade now. But in order to keep things that way, I have to be careful exactly what I say about who I welcome in. If you do not wish to officially present yourself as an associate of the Empire, I would make that decision now, before he sees you, and asks you to state business. Otherwise, welcome to one of the most wonderful places in the Forest of Ash. Might I guide you in?
Lead the way. I will say, I would not call us representatives of the Empire, but on behalf of the Empire, yes, we are here.
Very well. It's truly of no business to me. And she will go ahead, turn around, and turns out, to you, Calloway, knowing what Theoaldo means, the purpose of its name suddenly becomes much more clear, for on the trail you are standing on, Eileen puts her hand forward, twists it around, and spirals it back, and you sense a gathering breeze in the trees around you. And suddenly, branching off from the very not obscured trail that you are standing on, appears what almost looks to be a portal. It is an optical illusion where there are branches hanging over one another in ways that don't quite make sense. And they seem to lead into a mirror in which you can see upside down, as if everything past this point has been inverted, another trail. A trail that does not look man-made, not cut out, blazoned, and mulched, like trails often are for the purposes of carriages, but just a walking ground, a path that many creatures, for many years, have taken. And as such, the plants in the area have grown much shorter and much more sparse. And as she opens it as such, she takes a step forward, and you see her just sort of instinctually, her feet follow along the branches, and as if gravity slowly whirls around her with the wind, she is now standing upside down. And she turns to the rest of you and says, "It's only a little disorienting. I promise you'll get used to it as soon as you pass the threshold. Now come on."
Yeah, Eris will go. She'll do whatever that is.
Yep. And it's easy. It really is easy to do. It feels very bizarre. It feels like getting punched in a dream, you know? Like, you just know that there should be sensations and there's not, and you keep expecting to fall and you don't. And eventually, you are upside down, but then you blink and it's as if you're right side up again. You don't notice now that you're through that you've done a 180. Everything just feels right again. And as the other two of you come through, if you do choose to do so, it would be much the same.
Hell yeah.
Be funky.
All right. So yeah, as you all get funky, I'm going to transport all of you now as you walk down this hidden trail. You only walk but several paces before you see what must truly be the hidden trail. And I will reveal to all of you now the map of Theowaldo North.
Ooh,
So,
that's trippy.
so yes, before you now is a very elaborate, hidden town. These strange lights and bridges and vines and branches and rivers, crystalline water that ripples gently, homes that seem to be built right into the trees. There are old traditional stories from long, long ago, the kinds of things that nobody quite remembers where they came from, about wood elves and sometimes forest gnomes living in this way before the world became the world that we all know it as, a world in which there are many big cities, people travel around every which way, and all of the races coexist. You don't know how long this place has been here just by looking at it, but you can tell that there is sort of a very traditional feeling to it. And certainly, this is not the handiwork of the Empire. This is something that has been here and managed to stay here as the theocracy took over. So, as you all enter now, you are in the village, awash with lovely sounds of the lush forests and people going about their business, talking to one another and chatting. Birds, gentle flowing water. And you could swear you're in the Feywild from moment to moment, but what keeps it still feeling like the material plane to all of you is the general lack of weirdness and chaos. There's just a lot less whimsical nonsense going on in here than there would be in the Feywild. But otherwise, it does feel like a completely separate place. The direct opposite of the ruins of Barda that you were in, and all of you are able to breathe a bit of a sigh of relief being here. Now, as Eileen is continuing to guide you, walking along the paths, she says to all of you, "It is up to you how long you actually wish to stay, and if you do not wish anyone to ask your direct business here, I can make sure no one does so. We do have springs that you may wash in. We have food you may eat. We have shelter you may take in some of the canopies. There is always a place open for visitors that manage to find us. And so long as nothing follows you into this sacred place, there should be no need to question what brought you here. Well, unless you have any questions for me, I must get back to maintaining the perimeter. Otherwise, you are free to explore, rest, ask the people whatever you would like."
Thank you. Before you go, have you noticed any large differences in people coming across this place, or people you need to keep out of this place? Anything dangerous going on?
Cyril is quite concerned with the happenings of nearby Empire villages. But the truth is, Theobaldo has never had business with them. They have never had business with us. I am relatively optimistic that the trouble will not bleed over. Whatever it is, my heart and my prayer is with them. But it is my duty to maintain this sanctuary, not to crusade against whoever might have done such things.
Do you have any information about what has been going on at those surrounding towns? Or do you just hear things?
I concern myself with the inside. Cyril concerns himself with the outside. We work together in this way. If you truly are curious, you may find him fairly easily and speak to him. You'll just have to cross a few of the bridges to the northwest, and you should find a humble abode in which he will be residing, the place he calls his office. Nothing here is an office. That's a strange Empire term to me. But if it does concern you what happens on the outside, as I'm sure is the reason you are here, speak to him. Just choose your words carefully, depending on how much you want him to know about you.
Good to know, thank you. I don't think I have anything else to ask. We appreciate your help.
Before she walks away, can I kind of try to get a vibe on her, just kind of like looking into her eyes, trying to gauge her, like, I guess, reaction to us being here, whether it's like neutral or positive or like nervous, anything like that.
So I'll say right away, with your passive ability, just being proficient in insight, no danger comes from her. You're confident that there's no trick being pulled. As far as her general vibe, though, let's go ahead and roll an insight check for that.
Okay. That's a 22.
22. I'd call that a high number. That's more than 20. So, yeah, with a 22, Eileen appears to you to be somebody that, similar to a clergyman in Machavia, or perhaps even a monk from the far other end of the continent in Loshar. She seems to be somebody that practices stillness. You get this impression not only from her demeanor, but from the wildlife that seems to have an aura around her. It seems that no matter what she thought about you, she is somebody that is very, very capable of remaining still and gentle and calm. That being said, you think that she is genuinely welcoming, but you get the sense that there is a boundary, and she's already sort of hinted toward it, that no one should follow you here. But as far as you can tell, she just seems to be a, shall we say, lawful, neutral kind of person who is willing to bring you in because you are a fellow traveler of the woods, but only in so much that nobody else gets hurt because of it. And other than that, she just is genuinely more concerned with plants and shit than she seems to be concerned with politics.
Good to know.
Yeah.
What's the prettiest plant in this area? I take a look.
Okay, so you scan around, and all of you can kind of taking in your surroundings. You notice that almost everything is one step closer to natural than it ever is in the Empire in the North. You can just almost see where everything comes from just by looking at it, and everything is just a little less regal and a little less removed. Eileen seems to be wearing some of the nicest garb of anyone here, but even for her, you can see the spots of imperfection, the sort of just natural changes in hue and texture throughout the outfit as it is woven. The bridges themselves seem to actually be made of bark and vine, rather than lumber that has been cut and rearranged, how you would normally assemble a bridge. And as far as plants, there's plenty things that droop, like willows. There are some things that seem to be changing color for autumn, but unlike the oranges and reds that are more common in the Forest of Ash, it is sort of these greenish yellows, and almost a bluish color to some of them. And there's lots of very pretty moss that is growing along rocks, and main river in the center of Theowaldo does not seem to be that deep. You can actually see through it because of how clear it is. It's almost sort of it's like a milky Epsom salt blue. And you can...
But it is moving body of water. It's a river, not like...
Yes. Yeah. It is flowing. But it does have that color of a spring, of still water in a way. And you can see so clearly through it that it's almost uncanny. And lots of very pretty moss and tiny little speckles of flowers grow in there. And you can see younger people kind of running around, playing with their garb pulled up to their knees as they are touching toes to the moss and kind of running around and splashing each other. So, I didn't give you one, but you know, there's the plants. There's some plants going on.
Well, I don't know how long we want to stick around here. I'm sure there's going to be some useful information, but I do feel a need to kind of keep going.
Very well. You have your business, and I have mine. The plants will miss me if I'm gone too long. Will there be anything else?
I don't believe so.
Enjoy your visit to this very old place. And when you do return to your newer world, I hope that you have learned something. And she will go ahead and walk back out to the main trails that she was at.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
I don't mean to be too forward, but I think it does, well, was somewhat of a show of where her allegiances are with these things. Although, truthfully, I don't believe our business is with this place. Perhaps it is a good idea to note where this place stands, where its people stand.
Right. And if we do need, like, a place of respite, and we're not far from here, does not hurt to know that this place is here. But I feel like it's not the time to relax and indulge, at least right now.
I'd be a little worried that if we did, the danger would reach these people, and they seem peaceful enough. No need to invite the outside world in.
Right. So I guess let's gather what we can, talk to that Cyril person, and head on out.
Sounds like a plan.
I believe she said this way, and she will just kind of start to go in the direction she thinks is correct.
Yeah. Which perfectly segues into me saying this. It's hard not to get a little lost. The pathways are, as you can tell by our reference image, not direct. As they often say about camouflage, nature has no straight lines, and since everything has been built in accordance with nature here, you know, you're not dealing with like a city grid. It's very hard to figure out exactly where you should go for a first-time visitor. But for the three of you, part of you doesn't mind. There's just, every corner there's something to take in. You round one corner and you see a small carving in the stone of what appears to be a dryad, a fey being that is part humanoid and part tree. And around that stone there are people picking petals off flowers and making rings and patterns. You get to another spot and you see groups of children that are skipping stones across the water and handing bundles of moss and leaves and twigs to one another in some sort of strange game. You can't quite piece it together in the mere moments you're walking past, but they seem to be piling them, saying numbers, throwing them, and saying game nonsense words, and laughing, and huffing, and crying, and recouping, as kids often do. You round another corner, and you can see there are people standing atop one of the bridges above the river at one of its deeper points, and they're doing jumps. They're just cannonballing, doing some aerial leaps, all sorts of things. And the majority of people you see are wood elves. About 40 to 50% of people are wood elves. But other than that, there is a very ready mix of just about anything you can imagine here. You do see a couple of furbolgs. You do see at least one turtle lazily swimming on the river. You do see some gnomes and halflings that are in smaller abodes towards the top of the trees. You see an earth genasi and a water genasi that appear to be on a date of some sort, having a picnic under a willow tree. It seems to be the most picturesque of places. And it is but an hour away from Barda. And finally, you arrive at what you assume must be Cyril's office. Big air quotes for that. It basically looks like a hut that is partially in the trunk of a large tree and wrapped in its roots. But you can see that the door is open, the round door that is impressed into the bark of the tree itself. And there are some people coming in and out. Everybody looks local, except for the one man, as Eileen said, who would very clearly not be. You see a well-armored, noble baron who is there. He is, despite doing non-athletic things at the moment, wearing a ceremonial breastplate. And he seems to have fine weaponry, fine medals, and symbols of the Empire and his achievements throughout the years. And he sees the three of you approach. You lock eyes, and he says, "Well, you must be new. I assume Eileen told us to speak." And I will now share the image of Baron Cyril of Gauze. I will note that his arms are not currently glowing, but in the image that I found, that is a thing that he later, maybe. But like he's not like sitting at the desk just ready to blast. He's, but he's got this fine armor, the golden flame-like trims, the half ceremonial, half real breastplate, and gambeson and belts and everything. And he does have enough scarring to indicate that he has really seen battle. I will let all of you know now that this is part of the politics of Machavia that you would already know. Barons are often sent to areas of the Empire that are less in the heart of things, so that they may be a representative of the wishes of the Empire and make sure that everybody is behaving, so to speak. You can kind of think of them like a Viscount or a Governado. The Baron at this place must have at some point been sent to this area to make sure that Empire standards were being upheld. And as you were walking around, it's already kind of curious how not Machavia-ish this whole place feels. But he readily welcomes all of you in, shuts the door behind him, and he has small wooden cups that seem to have some sort of brew in them. You can't exactly tell what it is. Perhaps it's an ale, perhaps it's a tea, perhaps it's a milk. But it's a vague, natural liquid of some sort in small wooden cups. And he readily pours some for all of you and sets it to the side. Bit of a Theobaldo tradition to have a sip of it when you've come from a long journey. You might not like it too much, I didn't at first, but I promise it is an acquired taste. And he will readily sit, and he has a sip of his own beverage of some sort in his own cup. Sets it to the side, and says to all of you, "So, quite a place you found, and quite a strange forest to be in. Who are you?"
Yes, indeed. I am Eris Lebez. These are my companions. She'll just kind of gesture for y'all to introduce yourself.
Tivik'ka on.
Callaway.
Understood.
Yes, we didn't expect to run into this place. And we definitely weren't sent for you in particular. We're, on behalf of the Empire, we are coming to take care of some trouble that's been happening down here. And we've been clued in that you probably know a little bit more about this trouble and maybe could help us get to the bottom of it with the information you have.
Well, you see him fidget a little bit. He grabs his cup, taps it against the table for a moment. Were you meant to stop at another village? Is that it?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I mean, when they sent you, they probably told you nothing of Theobaldo. They probably stationed you to end up in Ozar or Barda, somewhere else in the area.
Yes, and there wasn't much left of Barda when we got there.
And now you find yourselves here. I'm aware. I'm aware of the trouble. I'm aware that the Exarch seems to have turned on his own. His reasons I don't understand. Well, I'm sure it is grave, whatever you've seen. I, though representing the Empire, wish to stay out of the mess as much as I possibly can. I understand to the Ascended and to the Exarchs this may seem a betrayal of sorts. But I do not wish to get involved unless there is very clear reason for the people of this place to be concerned with such a thing. On the other hand, I am aware of the trouble. I hear the horrible things that have happened. And frankly, given my unique position here, I feel torn in two. Perhaps you can tell me anything you know, and it may clear my mind to make some sort of decision. Offer help, if I can.
We don't know very much. Not yet. Hence why we were hoping you'd have a little bit more information, at least, about what's going on. And she'll just kind of keep an eye on her allies to see if anyone wants to, stop her, but she's going to try and be careful with her words anyway. But there could be a potential war. And I know I don't want to rope in any more people into a war with our nation, but basically there's some devil activity and someone's messing with things bigger than they are, and we need to stop it before it becomes an issue for everybody.
Devils.
Mm-hmm. As you can see, that's a very slippery slope. For anyone to start having contact with them, it just festers.
Eileen has taught me much in the time that I'm here. Theobaldo is a long trail. What you see now is but a tenth. It runs and runs, all the way to the end of the peninsula. And yet it has remained obscured from any trouble. But the people here are privy to the land. They know things about it. There may not be names, exact accounts, but there is a knowledge. So when I say what I'm about to say, know that I don't mean it as some commoner's tale, some superstition. This is not like crossing paths with a black cat. I have heard it said in my years here that ashen spirits always lie in rest. But they wait for inspiration. If that is to be true, then it would seem to me that if there are devils here, in any capacity, the actions of Machavians have welcomed them, be it the Exarch or someone else. This village you saw, would it happen to be Barda?
That's right.
A villager told me about that.
I saw him.
You can see a flash of intelligence in Cyril's eyes. Ah. And now you're here. That makes enough sense to me. He's not the most careful of hikers. Well, if what has happened to Barda is the same as what has happened to Ozar, then I believe it is very possible it is the actions of the High Exarch that have inspired these fiends. And I say that fully aware of how blasphemous I am if I'm wrong.
Unfortunately, we don't believe that you are, but the one thing we're unsure of is what has been going on to have welcomed them here. What were the Exarch's choices? And I guess maybe you don't know, and that's what we were hoping. We've heard just things, little things like things have been off or strange, but Nothing concrete, no motive, no anything.
Well, you see Cyril consider for a moment. He seems like he's trepidatious to bring up the next detail. Well, perhaps you should know that I have been invited to find out. Before I say any more, what is your intention here?
Here right now, or with Theoaldo, or the forest of Ash?
I need to know what you plan to do with High Exarch Ambrose Sonaris if it is true that he has welcomed the demonic presence here.
It's a delicate situation, and we will handle it delicately. And that's all that can really be said.
I believe that our intentions with him would be to ensure that he is unable to continue any harm against Macavia or its people. We simply wish to see that no more people will get caught up in the dirty dealings that he's been doing.
Very well. I think you may benefit from speaking to someone. They're an Ascended. One of the original group sent with Ambrose, and as far as I understand, one of his loyalists. Someone that was with him against the Shepherd, and someone that was with him throughout most of his career. They came here several days ago. There was an invitation of sorts to meet and discuss. I have not returned it. I don't wish to speak to that man, and I don't wish to get Theoaldo involved. But now, with Ozar taken last week, and Barda taken not but 2 days ago, I need someone to tell me what that man's plan is, so I can respond accordingly. And if I can do it without exposing myself to him, perhaps you are the people to help. Would it interest you to speak to one of his associates?
I believe it would.
Yeah, greatly.
It's honestly more than I thought we were going to find here.
More than I thought, too. 10 peaceful years I've had here. All right. Follow me. And he will just go ahead and lead all of you down a pathway outside of his office. And he brings you to a darker area of Theowaldo. Somewhere where the sounds in the distance are more removed, and where the light doesn't seem to make everything radiate and feel alive. There is a small building eschewed into a large shrub. Very, very large shrub that has been turned into a building that can house perhaps 8 people at most. And it seems that Cyril has turned this into a makeshift holding area of some sort. And he, fully armored, he walks with you. He presses his hand against the bark of the shrub, and rather than open the door with any sort of key, he traces a symbol with his fingers that causes it to glow a dull orange for just a second, and then begin to open. And he pushes against the wood and welcomes you in to a somewhat dimmer room encased in vines and leaves, where there are several birds, small animals, walking around amongst you as if you are of no bother. And sitting alone here with a plate of food, quite a good portion for somebody being held, is a man. A human man. Looks up to all of you with very calm, level eyes, and he says to all of you, "I wondered when the time would come. Melchior Nenu, second ascended." And he extends forward a hand, though he is in manacles, as a gesture. I will share him now with all of you.
By the way, whenever you said you were going to share the last one, you didn't do that, or it didn't work or something.
Ah, well, that's good to know.
I just didn't want to interrupt while we were going.
No, that's good. But here's Cyril.
Oh, hell yeah.
You mean about the hands?
Yeah, this is who you've been talking to for 20 minutes. Sorry you didn't. Sorry you didn't know that. But yeah.
That's some dope ass art, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So him, not glowy, welcomes you in, and yeah, here is second ascended Melchior Nenu. You can see him, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you now stand in this small room with him. Melchior looks up and he's very calm, not particularly disturbed or on edge in any way. Looks up and... "I was hoping there would be someone sent who I could get this message to. The Baron has been somewhat disagreeable." And you see Baron Cyril just somewhat sharply shut the door behind you. And he just gives the three of you a nod, as if to say, "Go ahead." And he stands in the back, just to make sure no one comes in.
There's nothing saying we'll be necessarily more agreeable, but why don't you give it a shot?
High Exarch Ambrose has been anticipating visitors. We did not know who they would be or when they would come. but we knew that his actions would draw a certain sort of ire. Ambrose wishes simply for a chance to make an offering of agreement. I, Second Ascended, and one of his most trusted allies have been sent here to Theo Aldo in order to let them all know that they will have peace so long as they agree to a certain number of conditions. Secondly, it comes to my attention, though I am removed right now from my people, that in the monument that has been manifest in Ozar, Ambrose will be giving a purification. I do not know which words his prophetic mind will deliver upon the crowd that day, but I do know that if you are here in the interests of the Empire, it might interest you to hear them, to hear his reasoning. He has persuaded many of us, and perhaps he may be able to persuade you once you know what it is that he is doing here. If you have any questions for me or about the workings of Ambrose or his coadjutor, I will be able to help as much as I can with my own knowledge. Though I appear to be treated as a prisoner here, I would like to approach this conversation as fellow members of the Empire and fellow agents for Azrael. Though our interpretations of purity and light may differ, I trust that there is an understanding we can reach in between. What is it you would like to know?
Well, I suppose firstly you mentioned that he is claiming to be a prophet. Does he claim to be a prophet of Azrael then?
I would not say that is exactly his intention. He is still a servant of Azrael and interprets the will of the White Flame, as we all do. But he has come across some old information regarding the Forest of Ash that has led him to believe that he is the holder of the way to purifying this region. That is what he was sent here to do, after all. Stomp out insurrection, find any remnants of the Shepherd and her wicked influence, guide any of the natives that had gone astray to the will of our empire. I cannot explain it as well as he, but I do know that what he has discovered is most alarming, and has caused him to believe that it is only right that several locations in the Forest of Ash be taken, and once his work has concluded, to offer himself to the flame.
But if he is not serving Azrael directly in this, then who is it? Something that he found in the forest?
He is... Perhaps we should say that he serves Azrael in a way that the rest of our fellow members of the Empire have failed to. He has approached his faith with a certain passion and severity that has been lost on many Machavians in recent years. He aims to stomp out blasphemous behavior, those who turn from the light, and cleanse this empire once more of the wickedness that led us to Tarkir in the first place. He claims to be an agent against greed, against wrath. He sees, and I see what he does as a mercy to our empire. Perhaps the things he has seen in the Forest of Ash have inspired him, but he still serves Azrael, and he will still be welcomed in to his flaming embrace when his work is done.
Have you also seen these things in the forest?
I have caught a glimpse. But the glimpse I caught was not, shall we say, in person. When Ambrose has been congregating lately, offering devotions and lessons and inspirations to all of us, he has been inviting us to open our souls as he has. In doing so, I found myself overwhelmed with a great sensation, and in that moment I saw visions. Much as the saints and prophets and emperors of old say they had as well. And in these visions I saw the form of a person made of dust and ash, wings made of flame, that of a celestial being. And though they said no words to me, I could sense from their presence, and I could feel in the words of Ambrose and how sincerely he believed what he was saying, the faith that he showed, that this being had a great wisdom that it was trying to share with all of us. Something that Machavia once knew and has lost. This is the main inspiration for the actions of Ambrose, this mysterious figure he only knows as the Fallen. And as soon as he says the Fallen, you hear, all of you, undeniable, a faint gasp coming from Cyril. The Fallen was once a great follower of Azrael. And the Fallen guides Ambrose now back to that path, so that he may inspire for the next hundreds of years, as the Fallen has inspired him, anyone who is in this region to remain true to the path of Azrael, to not give in to the sufferings, sins, and temptations of this realm.
All right, I'm sorry. You've said a lot, yet I still feel like we're a little vague on some of these answers. What is this Fallen specifically telling him to do differently? What is happening that is specifically going against the Empire or what he knows the Empire would be upset about.
I follow his will. I don't know every answer that you seek. What I can say is that the presence of the fallen has guided him into new life. Perhaps you would glean something of what is going through his mind if you witnessed the purification tonight at Ozar. He would welcome you to see for yourself, to perhaps be inspired. Hearing him speak and feeling that presence, it's unlike anything that mere words can explain. But I will tell you now, any Machavian knows how the emperors do their service to Azrael and then give themselves into his flame so that the next mortal emperor of the material world may take their place. The Fallen seems to be inspiring Ambrose to do the same. The Emperor, of course, will see this as a perversion. But give it 50, 100 years, and the Empire, especially the Forest of Ash, stronger than it has ever been, will show great respect for the sacrifice that my leader has made. And I can assure you also that these villages, the places that needed to be purified, in order for Machavia to be strong again, it will be necessary for some of its more sinful regions to go. Life will come back to these places. The ash will feed the soil, and like a phoenix it will rise again.
Ambrose gets to decide which areas are sinful and not.
He has a closer connection to the Fallen than any of us. So close that he was able to deny the temptations of a Lord of Hell. He now stands in opposition to devils. Devils who have been hoping to claim this region, waiting for a moment to strike for hundreds of years. I have faith, much as Machavia's people have faith in the Emperor, as a soldier has faith in their general. I have faith that what Ambrose believes must be done based on his pure connection to the Fallen must be done. I have given all I can give to that man, and I will give it 10 times more until the flames take me. It is my purpose.
If this Fallen is truly a part of Azrael, then why is it that Ambrose's actions until now have been very much against the Empire? Azrael is not one for division. And well, if Ambrose is claiming to want to continue the strength of this Empire, then why is he turning against it? Does he suggest that the Emperors have truly lost their connection? It's a very grave claim to be spurting around?
Ambrose does not wish to oppose the Emperor. In an ideal situation, the Emperor would come here himself, down from the safety of Azkaraz, and witness the fallen in his own way. But, for the same reason that the shepherd was able to pervert our people, corrupt us from within, so too must someone purify the Empire before it can stand strong again. I am aware of the blasphemy that I speak, but it is truly time for someone to treat the Empire with a bit of scrutiny before we find ourselves in another war. Once we are strong from within, once impurity has been truly removed, the Empire and the Emperor will see the benefit of what has been done here. I will restate, Ambrose was sent to purify the region of insurrection, and that is what he does. But the insurrection does not look how we anticipated. It hides in plain sight. And it requires the keen and wise eye of one with great faith, willing to make great sacrifice, in order for this region to be pure. And you hear the Baron behind you. He just walks up at this point. I've had enough. You just tell me, right now, is Theoaldo on his list? Looks up. That is for him to decide. I come here hoping that you, knowing this land so well and the people of Theoaldo, knowing the things that have haunted it for so long, might be more understanding of his ways. If not, you are merely a standby in the greatest moment of this century's history. Whether or not the Fallen determines that you stand in the way of purity is yet to be seen. But you can be sure that you won't be in our way if you make the decision now to have faith. And you see Cyril kind of scoff. Yes. Of course. Of course. I should give up my blind faith in the Empire and put some blind faith into you. Sounds reasonable. And he'll look to the three of you. If you have any interest in attending this purification in Ozar, I will not go. Do you have anything else for this man?
It's just one last thing. You mentioned that that peace would be extended if there are certain conditions that are met or agreed upon. Would you perhaps like to indulge us in what those are?
Of course. Ambrose believes that things with Theoaldo, the artery of the Forest of Ash, can remain peaceful. The impurity is in the empire around it. But he does know that you, Baron, stand as a symbol of the empire in He wishes for you to make an agreement. An agreement of neutrality and of surrender. This agreement will be divine. He will bind his blood and soul to it as you will yours. And if this agreement is made, it will be said that no harm will come to Theo Aldo, and if any does by Ambrose's hand, he will be forfeit from Azrael. Sever his ties, give up his leadership, and admit his sin. In other words, if you agree to neutrality and he fails you, he will purify himself. One more nest of sin that must be taken away. And you see Cyril just sort of considering behind you, but before he says anything else about it, he looks again to the three of you. Is that all?
I don't think I can listen to him anymore. I hope that you are so happy pouring everything into a man, a mortal, following something you don't know, than following Azrael. No, and you're not going to respond to that, and she will leave.
Alright, and he'll turn to the other two of you, but he'll lean back. And he won't say anything else unless prompted. Message received.
Tivik'ka will just wordlessly kind of like, chin up and just in that kind of like, I have no respect for you kind of way. And then they'll also just head out.
Calloway will just look him in the eye for a second, and then look to the Baron and give him a nod, and then follow the others.
Alright. Without a word more, you leave Second Ascended Melchior Nenu behind. And Cyril walks out with you, and you all head back to a passage. You don't go back all the way to the office, but you're in a passage. You can hear the rest of the village around you. He's leading you and he stops. No one else is around. You're secluded enough from everything else. And he just takes a very deep breath. You can see why I resisted negotiation.
There is none. He's completely lost to whatever this is.
And I knew it from the look in his eye.
I mean, who the hell finds something called The Fallen and thinks this is the thing I need to listen to? Ugh.
Exactly. Though I know of it. Tivik'ka, do you have more knowledge about what this being is?
I mean, have they heard anything about it?
Yeah, so you proficient in history, so this is obscure knowledge. But you can certainly roll a history check for it.
I certainly shall. That wasn't that one.
No!
Okay, you lately have been so much, until, like, this mission, you have been so concerned with all of the political minutia of the North that it's just missed you. Whatever this is, it missed you.
Well, fortunately, my studies don't exactly lead me to the south. Though, perhaps you could shed more light on it? Kind of like look at Cyril.
I did not mean to play all of my cards when he mentioned the Fallen. But I know I reacted. I've heard tell. This, presence that lays in wait, waiting for inspiration, that I mentioned back in my office. Well, there's another legend, very similar. So similar, in fact, that you have to wonder if they have anything to do with one another. That legend is that, long ago, nearly 1,000 years, before the Empire was even truly formed, there was a paladin. And that paladin tried to unify, under a single religion, the people that were here. It's hard to say who was here. Theowaldo is the only pre-Empire group that remains. Such a terrible thing. But the legend has it that their plan was to unify. And their methods grew more and more violent. Until, one day, this paladin was wreathed in flame. Some say they were taken by a celestial presence. Some say the opposite. That is all I know about the Fallen. If Ambrose has encountered the same thing, well, you have to wonder. A man like that, steeped in zealous dogma, who'd seen the horrors of the shepherd right at his nose and has had years to stew on it. And now he's sent here to the middle of the forest of ash. I can imagine he had doubts, challenges, internal sin that he was trying to work his way through. If this story about the Fallen is true, and he encountered it, I could see why, in his traumatized mind, this is what has become of it. The amount of blasphemous things I've said today. At least I'm not as bad as the man in there.
I don't think any of the words said between any of us need to leave that room anyway.
He's going to give the three of you a look, and he'll look down, nod, and breathe, and all right. I know it's been a short time, but I've come to trust you.
Likewise.
I should let you know where I stand right now. Your mission, as you let me know, is delicate. Mine is not. I will not make such an agreement. And if anything touches Theowaldo, I will resist. And I will tell you right now, if you decide that the right thing to do... You see him almost shudder at what he's about to say. He didn't have as much time as the Ascended who gave you this mission had to prepare for this reality, but he takes a shaky breath. If you decide what you need to do is to purify the High Exarch, I am inclined to stand with you.
Does he seem like he has an agenda?
Yeah, go ahead and insight for Cyril.
Oh. 17.
17. Normally, the agenda of a Baron would be to enforce the will of the Empire and to maintain their status. But, Calloway, you have a bit of a complex image in your mind because of Eileen. This is not how Barons traditionally operate in small, peaceful places. Eileen made it sound like they were equal negotiators. That they exchanged information willingly, that they played each other's games and kept things ways that would make both of them happy. Whatever a typical Baron's agenda is, Cyril doesn't seem to have it. He's not concerned in being top dog. He's not concerned in preserving his own title and status. All you can assume is that something in his years here changed him. And if he has any motivation at all, any game that he is playing with you, it is simply to make sure, much like Eileen, that as little harm comes to this place as possible. The only difference is that for Eileen, in order to do that, it seems like she just wants to take care of the land. Cyril is willing to join you if it means peace.
That's very, very good to know. Thank you. Because the more, I know, at least for me, the more I hear, the more that option rears its ugly head. And not even like an option, almost like a necessity.
Right.
I admire that you feel so strongly about keeping such a wonderful place and such beautiful people safe. I'm tired of seeing innocent people who don't want to be wrapped up in a war fighting. I'm ready for it to stop.
Me too. That being said, it seems to me there's a few complications and a few options. For one, though I will not join, if you want to see this ceremony in Ozar, I can give you directions. Perhaps it would give you some sort of information. Perhaps you'd know how to approach this better if you had a chance to speak to the man. Frankly, I can't imagine it going well if you choose to go. But it is your decision. The other thing is... Well, I heard Melchior mention something about the Lord of Hell. And moreover, though he seems to be inspired by the Fallen, he seems to view the Fallen and this Lord of Hell as separate entities. This makes my involvement much more risky. I don't know if you plan on doing something about the demonic threat, the Ambrose threat, or both. But if you do want to fight the demons, I believe you will need a greater ally than me. I'm a soldier, not a clergyman. Well,
Though,
is there anything I should know?
though we are not positive at the full extent, I want you to know that the demons and the Ambrose situation do have overlap. And we will keep you posted about how much. Yes, they said he denied this king, and yes, we're not sure if this fallen is the same thing. I think there's too many variables to know necessarily if we even plan on touching that beast, or if it's one of those things that the beast will go away once it's uninterested. I don't know. But I do want you to know that if you plan on getting involved, that may be a piece of it.
Well, the people of Theoldo are tougher than they look, but as I said, their weapons aren't silvered. Their magic is not divine. Perhaps somewhere out there is someone else that disagrees with all of this nonsense that you can get the aid of.
We've heard word that Lady Melina, is somewhere out here. Do you know where she is?
You see, recognition cross his face. Oh. Well.
You familiar with her?
I am. It's hard to have anything more than a mixed opinion of that woman. She sided with the shepherd at the beginning of the war. And then something happened in Tarkir, and she changed her mind. In fact, as far as I understood, her and Ambrose fought alongside at least one key battle against the undead. But, as an ally, to be honest, I don't know. All I know is she was originally from this region, and she's always had one foot in with the Empire and one foot out. Perhaps she's gray enough for a situation like this. But she is fearsome. And she is punishing. If you seek her out, and I don't say this as a slight, you seem to be good people to me, as I hope I am to you, but she is a cleric in the truest sense of that word. If she has any reason to believe that you stand against the light of her god, the light of Pelor, you might as well be an enemy. I've even heard locals refer to her sometimes. Call her the Winter's Clutch. A cold woman shows up in the shadow of night and exacts her god's will.
What about any others that are in this area? Any others that we can trust to be, well, true in their dedication to the Empire and wanting to see whatever this threat is neutralized?
I have met the Exarch's coadjutor a few times. Calamine is his name, but I'm sure he's just as far gone. Other than that, Ozar used to have quite the temple. It was taken. Perhaps whatever purification they're going to perform tonight has something to do with that. As unfortunate as it is, truly a rogue cleric, defector of both sides in the war. Someone who's not on Ambrose's radar almost at all, I would assume. Maybe they really are your best bet. Trouble is, I wouldn't know exactly where to find her, only south. Maybe Eileen would know something about that. As I said, Lady Melina is originally from this area. Perhaps Eileen knows more about her relation to this land than I do about her relation to the Empire.
That's fair enough. Well, then, seems like south is definitely where we're going to head next. But, Ozar, how do we feel about going? We don't necessarily have to make ourselves known, but just seeing what's going on, maybe that would be helpful.
I think getting a look would be good. It shouldn't be too difficult. But we were told that we would be welcome, so even if we are found out, it shouldn't be too dangerous just yet.
I have no intention on joining in any of the purification that they offer, but I think understanding what we're dealing with is more than a good idea.
Agreed.
I understand. If I were in your boots, I would do it, but I am in mine.
You attend to your duties and we'll attend to.
Very well. Here. And he will reach past one of the belts on his garb, and he pulls out 2 sending stones. I've saved these for a very special occasion. I think now is better than ever. And he will extend out to whoever of the 3 of you wants to take the other sending stone.
Probably Tivik'ka. Tivik'ka seems to be our magic-y person.
Yeah, I'll take it then.
Yeah. All right. You now have walkie-talkies with Cyril.
Cute.
In Goss, we have a bit of a tradition of sealing deals with a clasp of the arm. 3 of you. And he will extend out his arm for a handshake.
Yeah. She'll give him one.
Okay.
Callaway will follow suit.
It too, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be a little awkward if it was 2 out of 3. You know, one,
Yeah.
1 makes sense, 3 makes sense, 2 is weird. But he nods to all of you. Yeah. I will speak none of this to the people unless I need to. Now, whichever way you wish to go, find Eileen again. She will guide you out.
All right, you'll hear from us soon. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
To
Light.
Eileen.
And he'll just kind of mumble, "Light guide your path," as he walks away, and
Sorry.
that is that. Nice fire. So
Let's find Eileen.
there's all that. No, I mean, so you gained a lot more information. You gained an ally, depending on which path you end up taking. There are still questions about Lady Melina, about the purification, and about Bale. But regardless, you are ready to leave Theowaldo North and head on to the next leg of your journey. And we will do that when we get back from our 5-minute break. So it is 7:41. Let's go ahead and go live again at 7:47. That's 6 minutes. But rounding up. Okay, so woo.
You run the show.
Yeah, I run this shit. I decide what 5 is. All right, so alrighty. I'll see all of you in a little bit. Hope everybody has fun so far. Thank you for tuning in, and a bow, bow, bow. Hello, everybody. It is 7:49, because not only do I decide what 5 is, I decide what 7:47 is. I run this bitch. Okay, so, we're back. So, the party now has learned a lot of information about what seems to have caused Ambrose to have this change in his path, and it seems like the follower of his that they did meet is far gone. They all seem like they are somewhat far gone. They learned a little bit about an entity who may be celestial, may be demonic, and may be tied to Baal, or may not in some way, called the Fallen, who was once a paladin that grew more and more violent in their quest for unity, and was eventually wreathed in flame, and their soul was taken by something. There's debate as to what. Now the party is at a little bit of a crossroads where I believe you guys said you're probably going to go see Ozar, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are decisions about where to go in general. It seems that Cyril will be an ally to them if they fight Ambrose, but they still should have another ally, at least that's what he recommends, if they aim on opposing Baal and his devil forces in any way. That ally could be Lady Melina, but they're hoping to probably get a little bit more information on her, perhaps from Eileen before they go do that. And there also is Ambrose and his group, cult, you could call them, that are with him in the Ruins of Ozar, another village that they had taken much like Barda several days before. And there is going to be a purification ritual there that they have been peacefully invited to attend in hopes that they start to see the truth of what Ambrose is doing. So, all that being said, the party now finds themselves headed back to Eileen, if you know what I mean, and they are going to talk to her a little bit about what to do next, where to go next, and any other information they can get before they leave the northern portion of Theoaldo, the Hidden Trail. So, all of you now go and talk to Eileen. She is, again, just out tending the path. And I will go ahead and share art real quick for her. So, you all find her tending to some of the plants. And there is a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, that is giggling and running around beside her, chasing around some of the butterflies that are following her around. And she's just kind of pleasantly, with a soft smile, working her way through some vines. And she sees all 3 of you and says, "Oh, off so soon then?"
Unfortunately, yes, we do have to keep moving. We were hoping you could help direct us to our next 2 locations, roughly. We will be heading to Ozar and then south, looking for a Lady Melina, if you're familiar.
Oh. Well, yes, Lady Melina and I... Oh. What do you more modern people say? We go back. At least I hope that's how she sees it. A little hard to interpret that one. At one point in my journey, before I found a home here as a barrier garden here in Theoaldo, I'd taken some time away. I was finding myself, atoning for some things in my past that perhaps we don't need to go over. I found myself with Lady Melina at her sanctuary. The strong but gentle guidance I received from her, I would not trade for anything. This was after the war. I had nothing to do with the business in Tarkir, but I hear she did. And afterwards she came back to this region to live more quietly. More personally, perhaps is a way to put it. She took great care of me, and I assume she takes great care of many that find themselves lost. What is it you would seek her out for?
To pick her brain, to see if she knows what also is going on in the forest lately. See if she can offer us some aid in any way.
Well, if your heart is pure, and if you don't align yourself with any wicked things, she will at least welcome you. Help? I don't know. I'm not sure how much she follows what's happening anymore with the Empire, but she is aware of the more religious workings here in the land. If that is what you seek, I'm sure she can offer some information, so long as she deems you worthy of it.
I don't think we're harvesting any sort of negative worship to anyone.
Well, it's certainly a good start. I will say right now, perhaps you ask me about this because Cyril mentioned her some. I have quite a bit of respect for that man, but he tends to believe rumors rather than one-on-one experiences. Lady Melina gets a hard time. She always has. For some of the things she did in the war, maybe she deserved it. But I believe if your intentions are just, and you go to speak to her, not only will you find a safe place to stay, if nothing else, you will find a misunderstood soul. As far as where she is, well, you'd be best off following the hidden trail for some way. Once you get about halfway between here and the coast, you can head east through some of the burning brush. And as you ascend up some of the hills and mountains, the terrain will grow more rocky, the drops more treacherous, the rivers more dry, especially at this time of year. After you cross an old bridge, you should find yourself in her gaze. The exact location of her sanctuary is quite obscure, but if you find yourself in her region, she might know immediately. Once you get a certain distance, she will find you.
All right, well, it's worth a shot. We will be heading that direction after we go to Ozar, though.
Surely. Well, I can guide you out of Theobaldo, then. You can find me, she'll nod to Calloway, in the same place you found me first, when the time is ready. Just don't approach at night and expect me to be there. I tend to other things in the evening. As far as Ozar? Well, as far as I recall, once you get back out into the normal passageways, it should be fairly simple to find. You should be able to reach it by the evening, if you head west. And I believe it should be fairly easy to find the trail. There are postings along some of the old paths. Signposts that point to the Temple of Ozar. Whatever is left of the temple I don't know, but the signposts will lead you to the village.
Perfect. That's all we need.
In that case, shall I lead you out? Or are there any last little revelries you wish to have in Theobaldo?
Not for me, no. Anyone else?
Not that I can think of.
Alright, she'll give a nod. And again, it is not a far walk before you're at the spot again. And it should be pretty easy for her to... I don't know why I said should. It is easy for her to bend the trail in the same way that she did. And you all invert. And it's disorienting for a few seconds, and then suddenly everything is correct again. And you see her still standing behind you, upside down in the hidden trail. And she gives a nod and pinches the illusion shut again. And it looks as though there were never anything there. Just normal trees and shrubs along a not-so-hidden path. Alright, the three of you are outside of Theobaldo, back in the normal realm of the Forest of Ash, surrounded by the red trees and the autumn wind that is growing a little more harsh day by day. And as long as you start heading west, you should be able to fairly easily make it to Ozar.
They go.
Let's go.
Okay. So, let's get that pulled up. Alright. Give me just one moment here. Alright. So, you're outside now in the normal woods. And the grim reality of Barda, you are now just far enough away from that nature seems almost normal. It is now late morning, just cresting into the afternoon. The sun hangs high, the trees blow in the wind, songbirds flutter around, the last songbirds of the season, still in search of a mate before it's nesting time. And, for the most part, open, pleasant air. You do, after only half an hour of heading west along the pretty clear carriage passageways, you do find a sign, as was said, written in Common and Celestial. There is a simple wooden carving post stuck into the ground that simply says, "Come ye to Ozar who seek redemption." And it has a small depiction of a temple building. A very traditional temple building that all of you Machavians would recognize as sort of a universal symbol of not only religion, but of safety, a sort of halfway home where you can get a meal and a night's rest, almost like an inn. Only at the temples throughout Machavia, you do not pay in coin, you pay in service. And if you're not willing to serve the temple in some way, you're on your own. Now you continue to follow the path. All seems mostly normal, mostly pleasant. You have several hours. Is there anything anybody would like to say or do in this moment of peace before we get to Ozar?
I don't think I have anything.
Alright. Going once, going twice for anybody else?
I think
Callaway will make us. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't have anything.
Okay. Callaway makes a single comment as everyone's leaving. They all to the first place. And he will just say that, you know, it's a little ironic that they're peaceful because their terrain would make an excellent place to camp a military regiment. Up in the trees, ballistas, arrows. Great place for an ambush.
You're absolutely right. I hope it doesn't come to that, but at least they would have such an advantage.
Agreed. Beautiful there, though.
Incredibly. If we run into, or if we're noticed, I guess let's just put it that way, and we are welcomed, what are you guys expecting to see? Do you think we'd even get to talk to Ambrose?
If Ambrose is tooting his own horn as the prophet, I'm sure he likes to run his mouth a lot. Talk about the fallen. Anyone willing to listen.
Imagine also if he was expecting people from the Empire to take interest, then, well, he surely has a few things that he would like to say. But overall, I think it is a good idea to be cautious about any meeting with him, which I'm sure doesn't need to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Also, to go unsaid is that we cannot make any move on him when he is surrounded by his allies. So this has to be relatively peaceful as long as he's with his army.
I know, it'll just be hard seeing them hurt people and remain neutral, which is why I'm glad we're going to try to not be seen. I'm just nervous about what this fallen has done and what powers he now has.
You know, I thought we might... Oh.
Go on.
Oh, nope, I was just gonna ramble, so... You're good.
All we do is ramble here.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I honestly
guess.
had nothing to say, truly. I did, yeah.
But I think, at least I don't have any doubts that whatever this fallen is, I could not see it being celestial. Perhaps something more fiendish would make more sense.
Absolutely.
But also don't know if that is to say that it is truly a thing of Baal.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it is two separate entities. But none of this seems celestial. And certainly, none of it seems representative of the white flame.
No, it's not.
As you're conversing, continuing along the path, you see one more signpost around the corner, and through the woods, there is an area off to the side a little bit where you can see a bit of a rock formation, moss growing atop it, and animals scurrying about it. And what gets all of your attention is a small second of silence before a portion of the animals that are by that small rock formation scatter away. Squirrels, rabbits, birds, all just leaving the area quickly, as if some sort of predator had showed up. And you see, through a thin crack in the rock face, a glow. As you recall, it's a peaceful invitation to exchange information, but only if you wish. You see the green, dim glow that was in the lair of Baal. And I ask the three of you in this moment, do you wish to proceed to Ozar without speaking to him? Without entertaining whatever he has to say? Or do you take this chance to potentially negotiate and gain information?
I think Tivik'ka, when they saw the thing kind of opening up like that, would have naturally been looking over there because what's happening there with all the animals and stuff. But then as soon as seeing that green light for them personally, they're just going to kind of immediately just casually like take their gaze away, just completely like acting as if they're ignoring it, and would want to keep going.
I understand
that makes
that
sense.
reaction, but at some point we might want to ask about this, I don't know, fallen one business. I don't know if Baal would have any information about it.
I fear that we'd be giving him more information than we'd be getting. Wouldn't he have mentioned it? You know? It only
Always.
makes sense that he should have said something to us before about it.
I mean, if he's half as smart as any of us, he would keep at least some of his cards close to chest. But I have no problem with refusing him. I understand that as well.
I don't have much to say to him. Reporting back on some information that we have isn't worth it.
Understood. Carrying on, I guess.
Okay. As you continue to walk, the dim glow fades. There's kind of just a grumble, a low grumble in the air as it does. And the woods return to normal. Perhaps he'll just bother you another time. So, on to Ozar. You don't really hear much as you're getting closer and closer. You know that you must be as time goes on, but afternoon transitions into evening, and eventually you know that you must be just around the corner of this place. And the air feels different. The air begins to feel more like the air of Barda. You can feel the lack of life, smell the death. But even worse than that, you can feel a rumbling presence. What seems to be a group of people chanting lowly. Words that you can hardly make out. Their voices so unified it might be one, it might be hundreds. I'll bring you now to the first sight you see at the Ruins of Ozar. Before you can see the rest of the village, what you see is the remains of what have once been the temple. A few animals running around it, the air around it thick, misty, and dark. And you see a figure sitting, waiting by the temple, perhaps to see somebody crossing through the trail. But as I recall, you all stated you wish to remain hidden if possible.
Yeah.
Well, too bad! I'm kidding. No, so you can you can notice him long before he would notice you, through the sight lines of the trees. And if you would like, the three of you, rather than going down the obvious path, encountering whoever this is, and being welcomed in, as Malchior said you could be, you can just go ahead and cut through the woods, make some stealth checks, do whatever it is you would like to do to remain hidden, and we'll proceed from there.
Yeah.
Sounds Gucci.
Okay.
And before we completely deviate past this person, are we able to get a better look at them without, like, blowing our cover?
Without blowing your cover, no. I
Okay.
mean, you'd have to make a check for it for sure. They are a hooded figure with a sword. Like, that's really all you can tell from this distance.
I mean, I got some pretty damn good stealth if y'all want me to go up there and look, but
Better than my stealth. I don't.
I haven't. Yeah, I can do that.
Before you go, though, Tivik'ka will give you their talisman.
Hell yeah.
Just to help out there, just in case you do get caught. Because I imagine the rest of us are going to be definitely out of the way, so...
Yeah.
And then you also get D4 in case you do any failed checks.
Sweet. Okay. So I will make my way up just to kind of gauge what's going on with this hooded figure.
All right, then. And go ahead and give me stealth.
That is a 27.
Okay. So much like earlier in the night, I'd say that's a high number. It's more than 20. So, yeah. Whoever this is, pretty much doesn't seem to notice you at all. You have such a way of just moving with the wind, not stepping on a single twig, not going against a single breeze, and you just calmly, patiently make your way up. The figure continues to sit, and you can make out some detail, for sure. You can now see that the hood they are wearing has clergy symbols on it. This is not only a religious member of the Empire, at least they perhaps were at some point, but they are rather high-ranking. There's somebody that has earned the symbols that they wear. You also see on his left arm, there's the big sword. It's like a claymore almost on his right arm, but his left arm, there is a large tome, a very thick, religious-looking text that has been strapped with leather bindings onto his arm.
Are there any, like, letters or symbols or anything that would discern what the book might be?
Let's see. So your passive perception's already 20. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It says something in Celestial. Are you able to read Celestial?
No.
Okay. So then no further perception check is really necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says something in Celestial, and you can postulate that it is a cleric book or a book of some sort of temple upholding or tradition or dogma. But it's in a way that comes across more soldier-like than clergy-like. It is strapped to his arm, as if to never lose it. But other than that, he just sits. His features mostly obscured in the hood.
Can I tell how old they look approximately?
Definitely at least middle-aged. And probably human, maybe half-elf, maybe even dwarf. It's just kind of hard to tell with how obscured things are, but at least middle-aged based on lines in the cheeks and stubble that's a little gray and things like that.
Okay. And then is there anything else that I can see other than the hooded figure, either like further into where he is sitting or like people gathering or anything like that from this angle?
You can see the edge of a corpse that is in the temple, what was the temple, but this does not seem to be the place where the chanting's coming from. It seems to be coming from farther in.
Okay. And is the corpse, can I discern, like, are they wearing, like, soldiers' armor or, like, clergy robes, or can I just not see very well from here?
You can basically just see, like, an arm.
Okay.
And the arm does not seem armored.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and make my way back then.
All right. So you make your way back to the other two.
Couldn't see many of his features, but human, maybe half human at least. But robes. He had a book strapped to his left arm, something that looked like celestial written on it, and a big ass sword. But couldn't see much other than that. Body inside the temple, but that's it.
Just with this whole, like, book strapped to arm as in Celestial, is that, like, does that ring as, like, a thing that a group does to Tivik'ka? Or does it just seem like it's got to be this individual preference?
Yeah, passively, that is what a clergyman of Machavia does when they are, at war, so to speak. So they don't have... They're with a group of soldiers, and they don't have the luxury of their temple and their own space, basically. That's just a thing that they do, and it helps... One, it's just practical. They keep it with them at all times because they do use it for things that can be very helpful during battle. But also, it is sort of a symbol of designation to everybody else. It's a very clear visual indicator that is not a grunt. That is a mage. Or at least a partial mage. As Calloway told you, this guy's also got a big-ass stick, so...
Sorry, it's a big ass stick, not a big ass sword.
Oh, I'm just quipping. It's a sword. It's definitely a sword.
Okay. Okay, sorry. I wanted to...
It's a claymore. It's not like a branch. But anyway,
just the vibe of somebody holding a claymore is very different than the vibe of somebody holding a quarterstaff or a club or something. So I just need to make sure.
I probably should not have quipped. I should be very clear about these things. But that's what you just kind of know generally. If you would like, you can roll religion based on Calloway's description to see if you can gain anything else.
I shall do that.
Okay.
Oh, I actually rolled better this time. That's a 25.
All right, so nice. I would call that a high number. That's a little... I'm going to stop. But, but, that is better than 1. So, with a 25... Just based on Calloway's brief description of the robes in the books and everything, you kind of are able to recall images throughout your education and your time in Machavia, in the finer places. For someone to have those robes out here, it must be important and they must be of high rank. So your best guess is that this is the coadjutor. And the coadjutor, I will now officially state, that word's been thrown around a couple of times, but with your 25 in religion, point blank, here's what it is. There are 8 high exarchs in the Empire, and each exarch has a coadjutor that is, you can think of like a vice president for them. They are like the right-hand server of that high exarch. So it's very possible that this is a coadjutor, and it's particularly probably Coadjutor Calamine, who would be High Exarch Ambrose's right-hand man.
Right. Well, we'll share that with the others, so probably no, let's not go over there. Unless we wish to make any introductions now, I think it might be a good idea to avoid this person.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we should just be avoidant until we have more knowledge of what's going to happen here, and then we can make an educated decision after that.
Sounds good to me. So we'll be on our way.
Why don't you guide us, since you know how to be stealthiest the best?
Follow my steps. Keep up. And you will cut through.
Bugger will frown at the idea of following his steps and will instead just do the whole levitate thing, so they will then just be able to not walk at all, but
wow,
nod themselves along every now and again.
Well, Eris has disadvantage on stealth, so she will follow the footsteps.
Gotcha.
And hope to God it's fine.
Okay. And hope to Azrael you do, and it seems that you will be okay, especially with Calloway's guidance. You are making your way through a portion of the woods that mostly obscures you, and the chanting does grow louder, and it grows loud enough that you're confident at some point that the sounds of your footsteps might be completely obscured. As you continue to go, you eventually hit a crest, come over an edge, and you see what appears to be a large crowd. Perhaps 200 people. As you scan the crowd, it's clear that many of them are followers of Ambrose, people that came with him on the original mission. People that have probably been here the whole time. Others appear to be other regiments of Machavian soldiers, people from different platoons and squadrons and missions that were picked up at some point. Some are just normal folk. Some are villagers. Some are members of various temples. Some of them you can hardly place at all. It is just a strange group, a cluster of people that are all bowing their heads and chanting, and amongst them are dozens of bodies. It is just like Barda. It is burned buildings. It is people that have been cut open to bleed out. People that have been burned, hanged, ash spread everywhere, cult-like messages scrawled all over the village. And there is one man who sits in front of everybody upon a perch. He is at least 15 feet higher than everybody, standing upon what might have at some point been the biggest building in town, and is now mostly rubble. He is also kneeling, but he slowly begins to rise, and he slowly begins to hold his hands palm out above his head. And as you see him, he does not appear like the stories. He does not appear like what you've heard. In fact, even just yesterday, you were talking to the soldier, Leo, who you had that carriage ride with all day. And what he remembered a clean-shaven face, calm, cunning, and exacting vocabulary, an ability to lead with charisma and precision, and an exacting, ferocious will. The man you see now something is gone. This man is decrepit, haggard, old, dirty, and you can see in his eyes that there's a flicker of something awful. A subconscious that has been riddled with bad experiences and terrible conclusions about the world. But you can tell, based on everything else around you, that there's only one person that this man could be. I share now the art of what has become of the mad High Exarch Ambrose Zanaris.
Can I also just ask, now that we're closer to it, can we better make out what the chanting actually is saying, or is it just like so incoherent because they're all clearly fucking bad?
Does anybody know Celestial?
I do.
Okay. So Tivik'ka. And maybe you do. So the chanting, I will actually just go ahead and type the lyrics for you real quick. It is just a loop. There it is.
They will also just translate that into common for the others.
Alright. The Empire manifests. The ashes made to purify. The fallen joins to rise. All sin will be justified. Just again and again. Slowly and methodically.
It's a little daunting.
And finally, as you all watch, safe from your perch, Ambrose will begin to speak. And his voice, uncontained, loud, booming, and full of a strange, uncharacteristic, unhinged tone, cries out into the crowd. His own age seeming to debilitate him. He becomes so impassioned at moments that he can hardly breathe. And he begins to speak. Ozar! Ozar, great village, great place, lost to this empire, all above, all around. You see it now, brethren, sistren, you see all around the sin, the impurities that find their way, raping and rashing their way through this horrid nest. Ozar burns as it is meant to in the great flame of Azrael. I am but a vessel. I am lost to the light, for it is in the darkness that I find my true self. There is to be no purity for I, High Exarch, anymore. There is to be no grieving for me. My work is essential. Just as the emperors burn themselves, leaving nothing but ash when they go, I must, too, be lost. Let me shoulder the sin. Fellow Empire members, may I shoulder it for you, may I take it between the teeth, so that none of you must. For this land, this empire, this worthy place that bred the shepherd, this place we claim to be so pure, this place that asked me to commit the most heinous of sin. This place. This place must be purified from the inside out. and none have the insight to do it but me. And you see him turn to others that are being brought up the pile of rubble to him by some of the followers. And there are 3 that just seem to be common villagers. All panic, terror in their eyes. And he, on the rubble, magically strikes a flame. And he himself grabs them, tied up, and pushes them toward the flame. They scream, they beg. And he continues to orate, paying them no mind as the rubble begins to go alight. These sinners who claimed Ozar in their name, may they be forgotten. May they who turned against the fallen in their breath in their ancestry many hundreds of years ago, may they burn now. May Azrael show them mercy, and may this land find itself back in the warm embrace of the white flame. May it all be given. May it all be justified. I invite you all now, followers. We shall divinate the next place we must go. We shall find it in the mind of the fallen. Come, feel the heat, feel the flame, feel your ash. Feel your burned, charred body begging to be set free inside your cold, wretched, sinful flesh. And feel it. Feel where we must go. And he descends from the rubble, and he joins everybody, beginning to bow with all of them, and all of them now, they do not chant in unison, but they chant various things, their eyes closed, bowing, wailing, moving. A complete, wretched, cacophonous display in front of you. They claim to be divining some sort of answer. The question is, this may take a long time. After a few minutes, you all notice it's just going on and on. You're watching these villagers start to burn alive without stopping it. You're watching a sea of 200 plus people completely given in to this fanaticism. Do you want to wait and see if they arrive at some sort of conclusion, or have you seen enough?
I think Eris has seen enough. It's really hard to watch. So unless compelled to by the other 2 with a good enough reason to stick around, I think Eris would try and push them to, let's get out of here.
Calloway's totally zoned out, kind of fixating on it. Eyes wide. But if everyone starts to leaving, he'll get jolted out of it eventually and follow.
Yeah, Tivik'ka would be down to leave, especially because if they're all caught up in this whole chanty thing, it's probably a good time for us to make our exit without being spotted.
Mm-hmm. Then Eris would kind of take Calloway's shoulder, nudge him. Let's go.
Oh.
Come on.
Right.
Okay. So the chanting, the wailing, and the screaming all continues. You move off. And all of you, as you're getting back, you emerge back where you began. Start to head out. You notice this time, though, that The coadjutor is in his same spot, but now he's standing upright. And he appears to be looking around, his eyes scanning the horizon. Would you like to continue on and risk being seen? Roll stealth, stay put. What would you like to do?
Does he seem like he's searching for something specific, or is he just kind of all of a sudden deciding to be a little more diligent?
Passive insight. You can go ahead and see in his posture. He's searching. You don't know what got his attention about this moment, or if he heard something or what, but he's looking.
I can do the same thing as last time, but without the arrow. Rush around, make some noise. We can get out of here.
Not a bad idea. Or Tivik'ka, if you want to pull your trick and just get us far away without him noticing.
Yeah, that works too.
Well, I'm certainly willing and able to.
Does it make any sound? I don't remember.
I mean, I imagine not beyond just like spell components.
Yeah, what are...
I mean, it's because Dimension Door still has a verbal aspect to it, but...
Right. But you're
it's
speaking,
not like a flashbang, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, if anything, there might be a whoosh and a flicker of light, but odds are you'll be fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if Callaway still wants to get the diversion going as well anyways, or...
Yeah, I can do
that. It would go as soon as you come over, so... You'd be too far out, but...
Oh, that's fine. We don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, we'll just do our thing.
Well, Callaway still has a thing, so we'll Dimension Door away with Eris, leaving Callaway behind, and he can just bamf him through using the talisman.
Yup.
Okay.
And just go as far as the 500 will let us, because like it's just the directions, so...
Yep. Yeah, so you get away. Do the trick. By the time all three of you appear, the coadjutor is nowhere in sight. And you're free to just continue on, go the way you came, and get out of here. Okay. Well, the chanting fades. And as you proceed far enough away that you feel safe, night does come. Eileen told you that she would not be there by night. So, unless there's anything else you would like to do this night, it seems it is pretty much just time to set up camp.
Camp time!
Yeah.
Make a little fire for ourselves, get all cutesy.
Alright.
Roast a marshmallow or two.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because that's clearly what we have in our rations.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just do it in like an entire like tone shift and just have like a cute little like kawaii s'mores night.
Yeah, I was hoping that Ambrose's speech pattern would invoke fun and mischief. So I'm glad that that's what got across.
Yeah,
Woo,
like
man.
someone secretly like brought a guitar as well, do some campfire songs.
I just unleashed energy that has been inside me for like a month. That was a that was a dark portrayal of a man. Dear God. But yeah, you have spent the day avoiding conflict and gathering a lot of information. So, go team. It is now the evening. You are now free to have any conversations you would like with each other as you prepare your rations, have your campfire, and are mostly at peace.
Well, the morning was certainly much a different tone than this night. I don't think I've seen a place as lovely as that.
Yeah, and Theoaldo wasn't that bad either. Sorry, I tried to make a joke. Tripped out of the way on my mouth.
It's all right. It's hard to stay lighthearted after seeing something like that. So that's just what my attempt was.
It was beautiful, though. I didn't know there was anywhere in Macavia that looked quite like that.
So, what should we do about the fiends and this? It doesn't seem like we can sway or rationalize with either of them.
Also say that we were informed that the reason Bale wanted emperors was for his charisma and, well, his orator skills, but I think it's also more than clear now, after seeing what he's become, that, well, unsurprisingly, we weren't exactly told the truth. And so, if it is a matter then that this fallen, whoever they may be, is simply another one of the devils, and this is just a squabble between the two of them, and in all honesty, I don't know if that makes our position safer or much more dangerous than we anticipated.
Much more complicated at the very least. I mean, I don't know, maybe we can use Ambrose as bait. Spring a trap. Not sure though. I don't know if it's worth it.
I don't know. I just want it to be clean and done with. I don't want anything to continue to grow or fester. This ridiculous fallen cult or the demons.
I'm starting to fear that taking out Ambrose won't fix anything if he's just the product of this devil, demon, and fiend bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I think regardless of what we do with him, we need to make sure that it's not going to be servicing either. I think it's clear to say that he needs to be stopped. But I'm not so sure that death exactly is the option.
Do you think Melina would feel passionate enough to do something knowing that all this is happening down here? I mean, if she's so strongly a cleric for Palor, for the light, You would think she would
I don't know
jump
much
at the
about
opportunity.
Paylor, to be honest, but I would assume that whatever the hell Ambrose is doing would be offensive to her and him and whoever. But I never talked to Melina. I don't know her.
Right.
Well, if she is truly so far into the path of, well, not being connected to, or I suppose using the powers that she had bestowed upon by Paylor against those that are corrupted, then there is no greater sign of corruption than what we saw with him. I think she would also have an interest in stopping him. Would certainly align with Paylor's.
Nothing so far has been what it seems, so I think the only thing we can do is find her, talk to her. I don't know if we can trust what anybody says about anyone.
Let's just remember to keep holding on. I know I found myself slipping a little bit, feeling a little hopeless. It feels like basically the three of us against some really big players. We're going to figure this out, even if we don't have all of our tools yet.
I like to hope that Eileen and Cyril are going to be allies for us in this conflict, but I think it wouldn't hurt to keep rolling the dice on getting a couple more as we go.
I agree.
First time I thought about the fact that it's just three of us, and now there's Ambrose and, I don't know, the Colt and the Bale and the Fallen and whatever the fuck else is going on out in this godforsaken forest.
I think it is important to remember that we do carry with ourselves the backing of the Empire. I think none of Machavia has any business dealing with this cult. Any true Machavian would be against that. And if we are also in service of Azrael, then with their blessing as well, it is more than just the three of us.
You know, I think you were right, Tivik'ka. I don't think, even if we wanted to, I don't think we should kill him. I think that might just make a martyr out of those who want change. And I really am scared of what that could mean. A big enough deal gets made out of it.
If he's also channeling some form of divination, then perhaps removing him would cut off that connection. These people that have been coerced and corrupted into joining him would hopefully be able to come back into the flame.
But what about the next one who goes out there and finds the Fallen or whatever and starts it all over again?
Well, let's hope that when that day does come, if we are not able to deal with the Fallen completely now, that it will be in a stage where the Empire is able to enjoy further unity. And such division wouldn't allow for the Fallen to feed into everything, build up this power base it has in the first place. I think
Right.
the war had more than an effect on people. No one wants to see that happen again. If they're looking for other options, they could have gotten a bit too desperate.
No matter what, we have to try to nip the bud here, though.
Right. I want that too. at least to the best of our ability. This is too dangerous to let any remnant behind.
I think certainly once we do end up inevitably returning north, we'll have better information about what is happening down here in the south. There will be a better response to it. Perhaps a bit more of a precedent placed on bringing in some of the more divergent towns in here. Make sure that everyone is truly with the Empire, and that it can stand as strong as it needs to.
Yeah, Eris will kind of just nod at that and, I don't know, pick at her food, assuming we're eating.
Anyway, we're sitting by the campfire having a little campfire side chat.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, it is late. I'm happy to take first watch again, unless someone else feels so inclined to do so.
I think
The routine is
sticking to
good.
a routine is good.
This guy.
Okay.
All right.
That makes it Eris, Calloway, and Tivik'ka, right?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
believe so.
Well then, unless there are any further words, let's just perception check and go in order.
All right. I have nothing else to say.
Good night.
Good night. All right, that was good. 19.
19. Okay. Along the trails, off in the woods a little bit, far from Barda, far from Ozar, far from home. Not much happens, and you're pretty confident that not much happens. You are in a spot of the woods that seems, other than bird flight and the occasional passing nocturnal animal, like almost nothing is here of note. There are moments, though, with a 19, I will say, where you swear that you catch just a little bit of that dim green out of the corner of your eye, and you look, and it's gone. And then maybe a half hour or 45 minutes later, again, just out of the corner of your eye, and you look, and it's gone. And it's enough that despite the absence and the peace of your watch, it just gives you a bit of an uneasy feeling throughout the night. It's so subtle that you truly don't know if it's just a mirage or if through the ether, Bale is here, watching. Okay, Calloway.
22.
So that's a pretty high number. So with a 22, you notice a little bit more wildlife at this hour than Eris did. It seems like you're kind of in the real twilight area, exactly between dusk and dawn, and you can see occasionally groups of raccoons moving through the woods together, and they will kind of share a stare with you and then just keep going. You can see deer that kind of calmly pass by you, seem to pay you no mind. And other than that, though, you seem pretty unbothered. There's a lot to think about, and if anything, you're grateful to have a couple of hours to do it. And finally, Tivik'ka.
Yeah, 13.
13. All right. With a 13, which I believe is lower than 19 and 22.
I don't know about that one, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. I declared what 5 is a while ago, so I'm gonna say it is. But you
at 20, don't you know?
It's everything is a 34 now. No, but you don't notice much at all. You are a little more ponderous of everything that has gone on throughout the day. And you notice moments where you'll be thinking and sort of snap back to attention, trying to be alert. But truly, there's hardly anything you perceive that would be worth your attention. The only thing that does sort of startle you at one point is you're thinking, just kind of piecing everything together, half conscious, and you turn at one point and you see that there is a crow that at some point got very close to you. It startles you a little bit, and the crow just sort of looks up and mumbles something, and it's very speech-like, but you can hardly make out what language it's supposed to be, and it flies off. Now, some people might interpret that as a terrible omen, but given that you've seen multiple terrible omens in the past 2 days, you're able to distinguish a crow being a weird crow from an omen. And you just kind of... and get on with your watch. And that's about it.
It just seemed like a normal crow. It wasn't like some kind of weird magic thing going on there.
Roll a hysteria check. No, it was just a crow, and it was just... It looked at you and just went... and then just flew away. And it probably... Right. You know how, like, with birds that can mimic speech, it's like, if you knew what it was saying, you could probably hear it, but if you don't, it's nonsense. Like, you just have no idea.
Yeah, just knowing, because, like, there's a lot of shit like wild shape and, like, bee-sense and all that allows for, like, animal fuckery there, so...
Yeah, but it's just a bird. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was a druid, but not your concern. It's just a bird. Wouldn't that be funny? The crow just turns into a person. He's like, hey, what's going on? I'm curious. But that's about it for everybody's watch. All right. Morning approaches. And unless there's anything to say to one another, you can meet back up with Eileen and get to the day.
I ain't got nothing to say except for good morning.
All right. Oh. Here we go. All right, so Eris says good morning. We got that. I'm glad we got that. Get this coming back. The little beep-bop-boobity song. Alright. So you can all get back to Eileen. And I'll just pull us back to Theowaldo North real quick. So, yeah, peaceful morning. Peaceful Theowaldo. A few hours after you wake up, you all make your way to her in the same place as she was yesterday. And she spots all of you and says, I offered hot springs yesterday and you never took them, and frankly now you smell worse. Are you really sure you don't want to stop in before we go?
It might be nice to rid ourselves of the stench for a little bit before it has to get plastered back onto us.
Yes. Well, go ahead. I'll lead you to them. Clean yourselves while you can, and enjoy it while it lasts. Lady Melina is a cleanly woman, but I'm sure the stench of death won't be far off once you meet. And Eileen will open the passageway, lead all of you back into the hidden trail and to the springs. And yeah, it's just a bit of a secluded spot with warm pockets of mineral water that glow wonderful colors. There are fairies that are sort of around, little bits of light going around, tiny pixies that float throughout the air. And you all join about 20 or 25 other people that are in this somewhat large area, all in various degrees of dress or undress, bathing alone, in groups, just all here enjoying the atmosphere as much as they can. There are some people that sit atop rocks in a meditative position as they are air drying the spring water off of themselves. And as you all join, you are all free to just take as little or as much time as you would like to go ahead and clean up before the next leg of your adventure. And Eileen... Eileen, all I will say is that Eileen will not join, but she will also take part in the hot springs. She will find her own spot farther off and rejoin you whenever everybody's done. So yes, go ahead.
When Eris gets in, there's already like steam coming off it, but when she gets in, it's like a lot more steam, and then it kind of like the little like pits of like, not pits, but like flowing like lava turns to like a cooler gray color. Just like everything looks cooler, and like her hair kind of, it doesn't disappear, but like just extinguishes, so it turns into like a brown, like what like wet brown hair looks like. I just thought that'd be funny.
So, as you kind of, the display of that sort of, it gets a few people's attention. They glance, some people kind of, oh, okay, never seen that before, and then just get back to their business. But you notice that same couple, the Earth and Water Genasi that seemed to be on a picnic yesterday, they also happen to be at the springs right now. And the Water Genasi turns to you and he goes, we almost have a full squad. Where's the air person? And then he just kind of gets back to what he's doing.
She's gonna like kind of chuckle at that and then go, that was kind of weird, like in her head, and then she's gonna like turn away.
But yeah, that's it. I just needed to say that.
No, it is funny.
As the DM who takes this world very seriously.
The only 3 Genasi at all in all of the town.
Yep, so. And they're all here, and it's almost a full squad.
Nearly.
That'd be a fun party. A party of 4 that's just all Genasi.
Next time. We missed out, guys.
Man. We really fucked up. And this would have so been the right tone for that. But anyway, yeah, other than that, just peaceful little abode where everybody's just kind of hanging out and resting.
When Calloway gets into the water, if anyone's paying attention, he has like a lot of kind of severe scarring over his like back and chest, and like areas where fur just hasn't grown back. But otherwise than that, he's a very furry guy, obviously.
Like, he's gonna take so long to air dry, mate.
He is. We need a blow dryer.
And probably gonna smell pretty bad, like wet cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably, like, I imagine while you're grooming yourself, like, clumps of fur are in just your pool specifically.
Oh, and then after a few minutes, you hear him hack up a hairball, and you just, sorry, hairball.
Staying away from all that, it's nasty.
Yeah.
There's gonna be.
They're just a human. Like.
Calloway, when you're about wrapping up, there is a very calm demeanored half-orc man who comes up, and he's fully clothed and in sort of just robes, sort of like woolly robes, and he's holding a net, and he's just kind of waiting, and you look at him and he's kind of, oh no, go ahead, finish up, and he just kind of
Would you like me to? I'm right here.
Oh, it's, you're a guest. It's okay.
If you say so.
Yep.
Occupational hazard, I'm sorry.
And when you're done, yeah, he seems unbothered. He just cleans up the spot for whoever comes next.
Are there any towels?
No.
Do towels exist? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Well, they exist, but they don't have them here. I don't know.
Grab a leaf.
Yeah, Theowaldo is a they're an air drying people.
I mean,
Shake
wait,
off.
is when cats lick themselves, and I'm not saying that he's licking himself all the time. I know I said hairball, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, that's them. Is that them cleaning themselves, or is that like? I've never owned a cat, so like I just don't know.
That is them cleaning themselves and smoothing out the hair and getting rid of any dirt.
Okay, I didn't know because I feel like I have seen like cats get wet and then start licking themselves.
Yeah,
but
they're basically cleaning the water off of themselves at that point because they don't dry very well.
Well, he will in private. That's probably where the hairball came from, not from grooming, but from licking the wet away. That was a horrible word. I'm sorry.
I sort of hated that, but that's okay.
Anyway, I bet Eris dries super quickly because it just kind of evaporates quicker and her hair is back to being kind of ignited and everything.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit. The water Genasi never really got damp, but he was never dry. That's all I'll say about that. The Earth
What's
Genasi.
your experience, Tivik'ka?
Yeah, what's going on, Tivik'ka? Is you human? How's that going?
I mean, I don't know, fam. They would have definitely. They're that kind of person that like they would like hide their hair up into like a bun so it's not get wet and all that. You know, they would deal with all that mess.
Who wants to deal with wet hair? The worst.
But yeah, I don't know. They're very just neat about it. Don't have any weird, nasty hat hair or steam and shit. Like, you know, just elegant.
Quite a trio. All right, so eventually you all finish up. Eileen finishes up, and by the time it was a quick dip, and she's already just meditating upon a rock for a few moments, letting herself air dry before she redresses and joins all of you again. Says, right. Where we are going, we can mostly follow the path. I'll take you about halfway down the peninsula. The travel will seem quicker the way we go. But once we are about halfway, I will have to turn you loose and go back. You will once again be on the land, where travel will be normal and burdensome. You follow the simple instructions I gave you. Headed east, find the hill, climb it, cross the bridge. It should be fairly easy to find Lady Melina from there. Well,
All right.
let's walk and talk, then. And as you're heading out, you see the same little kid that was chasing around the butterflies yesterday is there again. And just as soon as Eileen comes by, she's like, Eileen! And she runs and just starts chasing him again. And Eileen kind of bends down to her and laughs a little bit and says, I need you to watch the perimeter, dearie, okay? I'll be gone for a little bit. Said, mm-hmm. And she just gets up and heads off, and the kid chases a few of the butterflies again. And eventually, you're all walking, and it is just the four of you for a while, headed down the hidden trail. For a while, it looks like our reference image, but once you get out of Theowaldo North and into just the hidden trail itself, you're essentially just following a mossy path along a wide-mouthed river. And there's not much other sign of people and their habitat as you continue to go. So, anybody have questions for Eileen before she drops you off?
No, nothing like specifically. I imagine they're just making chit chat, but
All right. She will specify in her chit-chat at some point that she didn't actually assign a child to watch the perimeter. In case anyone asks. That was just her being nice. But yeah, other than that, she wouldn't have too much to say. She's a very quiet presence most of the time. And very calm, always a slight smile on her face. And she seems, despite probably having seen it hundreds of times, she seems genuinely delighted and enraptured by the sights and sounds of Theowaldo as you continue to walk. Okay. Without further ado, then, I suppose she will eventually drop you off. Alright then. So, you find yourselves, after she bends the pathway again, you spiral around, get yourself reoriented. You find yourself once again in the middle of the Forest of Ash, only now the trees have grown even more dense, the wind even more sharp, and you can tell now that you are further and further from the heart of the Empire than you were before. In a mere 2 or 3 hours of walking, you feel, just based on your surroundings and on the way that Eileen described the trip, bringing you to the middle of the peninsula, you may have traveled what would normally have taken 2 or 3 days. And here you are in the late afternoon. So, she nods to all of you. I do wish you well. Unless there's anything else I must return.
thank you for your assistance, but I think we're good from here.
Stay safe.
I shall. Cyril tells me you hold on to the sending stone. He did not tell me
Yes.
much else. That is all right. Keep him company, okay? And
It should
she'll...
also be an assurance that if anything does happen, anything that could potentially threaten you or your people's safety, it will hopefully be known through him.
Well, in that sense, I hope there is never an update. But she chuckles just a little bit. Well, don't tell him I said this, but he's been really looking forward to needing to use those, so... He thinks they're quite cool, as one would say.
They're pretty cool.
Well, off I go. I'll see if my little border guard has kept up her responsibilities. Chasing butterflies and all. And she will go ahead and turn around, make her way through the trail, once again disappear into its illusion. And there you are all. There you all are. There we go. God. There you all are. Once again in the Forest of Ash. So, as you continue along, making your way calmly along the path you were instructed to, you do, after a mere hour or so, find a hill. And you do find a pathway that seems to lead up. And eventually, it seems like the rest of the way is going to be fairly clear. There's a main trail here, a trail that was probably at some point used for trade. But there's no signposts anymore. Tree roots have begun growing over what would have been a maintained trail at some point. It seems that this is an area that, for one reason or another, is not often used anymore. But the trail itself very clearly leads upward, and you are able to find where Eileen was talking about. You do eventually see what appears to be a bridge crossing a gorge in the distance, leading to an even denser patch of red trees. And lying on the trail is a dwarven man. He's got long blonde hair that obscures a lot of his features. You can see tired, squinting eyes and a stoic expression with a pipe stuck between his jaws. But other than that, you can't make out much. And he's armored. He simply sits at the trail, letting the smoke from his pipe wisp into the air around him, his arms folded calmly at his side. And you all notice him as soon as you come over the hill. He certainly could notice you with simply a glance upward, but he doesn't seem to engage you in any way. What would you like to do?
I mean, we have to pass him, right, to keep going in our direction?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wouldn't hurt just to, like, see what's up with him, or see who he is. He's so near where we're going, so Eris would, not changing her pace, just kind of keep moving. And almost like, we'll see if it grabs his attention, but just like passing by, she'll just say, "Hello. Fine day."
Fine day indeed. And he just kind of grumbles, lets his pipe smoke continue to waft out, takes the pipe out of his teeth for a moment as he coughs a bit.
You're just out here all on your own, traveling?
Oh, sit here some days. Easy place to reflect. I'm a member of a small group just there across that bridge. I'm a long way from home, but those people are the best I got. Who are you folks?
We're also traveling. We were actually looking for Lady Melina. Not sure if you've ran into her. We've heard she's headed that direction.
I figured. It's not much reason for people to be up here anymore. Name's Vlado. Some people call me Vlado the Meek. I like to think I'm far from modest, but perhaps you may have heard of me. And I will share the image of Vlado the Meek.
Have we ever heard of him?
Yeah.
You have not. As he said, he is far from home. But no, he is not noteworthy in any way to any of you.
Look at that blonde ass beard.
Yeah, I know.
What a man.
Can I ask where you call home then?
Wild Waste. Far from here.
I've heard many tales of the waste.
Well, there's that old war between this here empire and kingdom I found myself not so technically a part of, and well, I got my hands in it. Hoping I could scrounge up something. Couldn't really tell you what I was looking for. Money, notoriety, glory. I'm so far behind me now, it's a different kind of life out here. Kind of life that Lady Melina has been showing me. Met her during the conflict. Surprisingly nice for a Machavian zealot. You, looking for her?
That's right.
Well, you understand that by looking for her, you're already going to be cutting some ties.
How do you mean?
Well, as far as I understand it, an old friend already tried to inform you of such. See, you're, looking to negotiate with a cleric. Goody two-shoes type. As far as I'm to understand it, somebody made you an offer that would deeply betray. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in that case, I think we've made up our mind.
Oh.
Where did you come by this information, though? Surely you've not been keeping an eye on us. You've been lounging on this hill.
What? You think I don't have my ways of knowing? Really, I mean, do you think this body that I'm inhabiting right now knows anything about what we're talking about? This is but an innocent soul. I warn you, travelers. I've watched, and I believe that you are close to a truth. I believe you are close to giving in to your own greed and making my deal. But one more step towards this cleric who I've so despised, and our deal is up. Do you really wish, in the midst of all that surrounds you, to face my wrath?
I don't believe we ever really truly made a deal, though, did we?
I believe you made us an offer. No one said yes.
And we'll always stand with Azria. I believe that inherently makes it against you.
I'd hoped even followers of Azrael would be smarter. I'd hoped you'd see the benefit of sacrificing one to save many. So be it. The offer is retracted. The information I could have provided you on Ambrose, Calamine, Melina, Theoaldo, or the Fallen is gone. So go on. Take that step toward that cleric. Make your pick.
You're not even gonna try and win us back? You're talking to a bunch of zealots here. Like, we're also very strongly aligned with Azrael. There's not much you've provided that makes us want to turn our back on him.
I see. You want a better negotiation, do you?
Frankly, what you offered wasn't that enticing.
Wasn't
I
much of
believe
an
we have
offer at
no
all.
Deal. I believe we have no reason to go down with this deal or engage in any further things here. So please, I think it is best that we be on our way, is it not?
I think you believed I would give you something more than mercy. And now you will see that it is retracted. More than Ambrose will die. Many will die. Many will be in my way. And we can start with number 1. And Vlado, his eyes kind of flash that dull green for a moment. And suddenly he... What was that? What? Did any of you sense that? And he just immediately spews out blood. It starts leaking down his beard, and within seconds before any of you could stop anything, he explodes. Just blood, guts, bone, and a small burst of greenish flame. And he's gone. It mars all over the tree. Some of it splatters onto the three of you. Bones clatter at your feet. Fragments of skull go flying all the way across the woods. And in tufts of flame between you and the other end of that bridge, a platoon of devilish forces begin to appear. And that is where we will end session 2 of Rising Ash.
Sorry, y'all. My mouth got us in trouble.
Well,
I mean, he was being kind of sore, though. I'm like, come on, man.
come on, devil. Should be better than this. Alright, well, thank you everybody for being tuned in. I had a blast, and I hope you did too. Tune in
And
next
so did
Tuesday.
Vlado the Meek.
Vlado the Meek
as well.
had a boom.
Yeah, he did.
He had a great time.
Bye.
So yeah, you gotta give character art even to the little guys, you know, because then you trick everybody into thinking they're going to stick around, and then they go boom. Anyway, so yeah, there was that. Thank you all for watching. Thank to the three of you for playing. You can catch us again next Tuesday, and these episodes are going to be starting to be uploaded onto our YouTube pretty soon. We still have Everend going as well. Episodes get uploaded onto YouTube on Wednesdays, and at the same time on Wednesdays, they also get streamed here on the Twitch. You can go ahead and watch those. And the Silent Shield anthology series will be making a return fairly soon. That's not an exact date. Just trust me. Fairly soon. I'm figuring it out. Okay, squad. Everybody have a good time. Drink your water. Be sure to have food you like. Call somebody you love and tell them you love them. And D&D. Woo. Yeah, pew, 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 pew. Pew, pew, pew.